Welcome to the channel the Coinlore Vault, and before you swipe past this video, let me ask you something that might just change everything you thought you knew about pocket change. What if I told you that a simple dime, one that's been jingling around in your coin jar or maybe even spent at a gas station last week, could be worth $53,000? I'm not talking about some ancient artifact locked away in a museum vault or a coin made of pure gold. I'm talking about a 2001 D Roosevelt dime that looks almost identical to every other dime you've ever held, except for one tiny detail that separates worthless metal from life-changing money. Most people have no idea that this exact coin could be sitting in their change right now, unnoticed, unappreciated, completely overlooked, and here's the thing, the person who finds it won't just be lucky, they'll be the person who actually paid attention, who learned what to look for, who didn't just assume all dimes are created equal. So right now, I need you to do something for me, pause whatever you're doing, forget about scrolling to the next video, because what I'm about to reveal isn't just interesting coin trivia, it's a legitimate treasure hunt that's happening in your own home, and by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what makes this 2001 D Roosevelt dime worth an absolutely staggering amount of money, and trust me, once you understand the secret, you'll never look at your loose change the same way again. Now, let me hit you with the number that's going to make your heart skip a beat. Authenticated examples of the specific 2001 D Roosevelt dime error have sold at major numismatic auctions for prices reaching an absolutely mind-blowing $53,000. And before you think that's some kind of mistake or exaggeration, understand that this valuation comes from verified sales records, documented transactions between serious collectors who know exactly what they're buying, people who've spent decades studying coins and who wouldn't dream of spending that kind of money unless they were absolutely certain of what they were getting. The 2001 D Roosevelt dime represents something incredibly special in the world of modern American coinage, and to understand why, we need to go back to the Denver Mint in the year 2001, a time when the United States Mint was producing hundreds of millions of these 10-cent pieces, stamping them out with industrial precision quality control measures in place, every coin theoretically identical to the next one rolling off the production line. The Denver facility, marked by that distinctive D Mint mark that appears just above the date on the obverse side of the coin, was operating at full capacity during this period, processing planchets through multiple presses, striking dies against metal thousands upon thousands of times each day, and in this massive volume of production, something remarkable happened. Mistakes occurred, tiny deviations from perfection that would normally be caught and destroyed before ever reaching circulation. Except sometimes, just sometimes, these errors slip through the cracks and make their way into the world where everyday people spend them without a second thought. The Roosevelt dime itself has a fascinating history that every collector should appreciate. First introduced in 1946 shortly after President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's death, designed by chief engraver John R. Sinek, whose initials JS appear on the truncation of Roosevelt's neck, a design choice that actually sparked controversy at the time, with some people believing the initials stood for Joseph Stalin in some kind of communist conspiracy, which of course was completely ridiculous but shows you how passionate people get about their money. The obverse features Roosevelt's profile facing left, surrounded by the legends Liberty and In God We Trust with the date below, while the reverse displays a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, representing liberty, peace, and strength respectively, a design that's remained essentially unchanged for nearly 8 decades now. But what makes certain 2001 D Roosevelt dimes worth thousands while billions of others are worth exactly 10 cents? The answer lies in striking errors, die varieties, and metal composition anomalies that can occur during the minting process, and this is where things get absolutely fascinating. The most valuable 2001 D Roosevelt dimes are those struck on wrong planchets, specifically dimes that were accidentally struck on planchets intended for other denominations. Imagine a dime design being stamped onto a quarter planchet or even more dramatically onto a Sacagawea dollar planchet, creating a coin that weighs completely wrong, has the wrong diameter, might have a completely different color if it's struck on golden-colored material, and represents a fundamental breakdown in the mint's quality control systems. These wrong planchet errors are extraordinarily rare because modern minting facilities have multiple safeguards specifically designed to prevent them, automated systems that should detect incorrect planchet sizes before they ever reach the striking press, which means when one does slip through, it becomes an instant numismatic treasure. Another category of extremely valuable 2001 D Roosevelt dimes involves major die errors such as dramatic off-center strikes where the die fails to align properly with the planchet, resulting in only a partial design being struck onto the coin with a significant blank crescent visible where the die completely missed the metal, or broad strike errors where the coin is struck without the restraining collar that normally contains the metal flow and defines the coin's diameter, causing the metal to spread outward, creating a coin that's noticeably larger and thinner than normal with a completely smooth unstruck edge instead of the usual reeded edge that dimes are known for. There are also spectacular double-struck errors where a coin remains in the striking chamber after the first strike and gets hit by the dies a second time, often at a different angle, creating a ghostly second image overlapping the first, a type of error that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional and absolutely unmistakable to anyone who knows what they're looking at. And here's something that'll really get your attention. There have been discovered examples of 2001 D Roosevelt dimes with wrong metal composition, specifically dimes that were struck on planchets made of different alloys than the standard copper-nickel clad composition that's been used since 1965. We're talking about dimes that might have been struck on silver planchets left over from pre-1965 production, or on experimental alloys that were never supposed to enter circulation, or even on foreign planchets from other countries' coins, each scenario representing a chain of failures in the mint's processes that should be virtually impossible but somehow happened anyway. And when these coins are authenticated and certified by major grading services like PCGS or NGC, their value absolutely skyrockets into the tens of thousands of dollars. Now, you might be wondering how exactly these errors happen in facilities with such sophisticated equipment and strict protocols. And the truth is that even with modern technology and trained personnel, the sheer volume of coins being produced creates opportunities for mistakes. During a single production run, millions of planchets are being fed into hoppers. Dies are being replaced after striking thousands of coins when they show signs of wear. Different denominations are often being produced in the same facility at the same time, just in different areas, and during shift changes, equipment maintenance, or emergency shutdowns when something jams or breaks, there are brief windows where incorrect planchets might contaminate the wrong feeding mechanism, where a partially struck coin might not properly eject from the press, where quality control inspectors might be focused on one type of error and completely miss a different anomaly. The human element combined with mechanical systems operating at incredible speeds creates a perfect storm for rare but valuable mistakes. Let me tell you about some of the specific things that serious collectors look for when examining 2001 D Roosevelt dimes, because this knowledge could literally be worth thousands of dollars to you. First, weight is absolutely critical. A normal copper-nickel clad dime should weigh exactly 2.268 grams, so if you have a scale accurate to at least 2 decimal places and you discover a 2001 D dime that weighs significantly more or less, you've potentially found something extraordinary, a dime weighing around 2.5 grams might be struck on a planchet from a different denomination, while one weighing closer to 2.7 grams could be a silver planchet error worth an absolute fortune. Second, diameter matters enormously. Standard Roosevelt dimes measure 17.91 millimeters across, and while that might sound like a measurement that's impossible to determine without specialized equipment, you can actually compare suspected error coins side by side with known normal coins, and if there's a visible size difference, especially if the coin is noticeably larger, you're looking at either a wrong planchet error or a broad strike, both of which can be worth serious money. Third, edge examination is crucial because normal dimes have precisely 118 reeds around the edge, that distinctive ridged pattern you can feel when you run your finger along the coin's rim, but error coins might have a completely smooth edge indicating a broad strike, or they might have the wrong number of reeds if they were struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, or the reading might be only partial if the coin was struck off-center. Each variation telling a story about exactly what went wrong during the minting process. Fourth, visual inspection under magnification can reveal doubled images from double strikes, visible metal flow patterns from broad strikes, or design elements that appear in the wrong position indicating off-center strikes. And this is where a decent jeweler's loupe or USB microscope becomes your best friend in coin collecting, allowing you to see details that are completely invisible to the naked eye. Fifth, color and luster can be dead giveaways for wrong metal composition errors. If your 2001 D dime has a golden tone instead of the expected silvery appearance, you might have a coin struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet. If it has an unusually bright white appearance and exceptional luster, it could be struck on a silver planchet. Basically, any color that deviates significantly from normal copper-nickel clad appearance deserves serious investigation. The collecting community for Roosevelt dime errors is incredibly passionate and well-organized, with specialized forums, Facebook groups, and websites dedicated specifically to cataloging and authenticating these modern minting mistakes. And what's particularly exciting about this segment of numismatics is that unlike ancient coins or ultra-rare historic pieces that require massive capital to acquire, valuable error coins are still being discovered in circulation today by ordinary people who simply know what to look for. There are documented cases of individuals finding 5-figure error coins in rolls of dimes from their local bank, in change received at grocery stores, in estate sales and coin collections inherited from relatives who had no idea what they possessed. And each discovery reminds us that treasure hunting isn't just something that happens in movies or adventure novels. It's a real possibility every single time you examine your pocket change with educated eyes. The authentication and grading process for these high-value errors is absolutely crucial and something every potential seller needs to understand before attempting to monetize a discovery. The two major third-party grading services that serious collectors trust are Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, both of which employ expert graders who've examined millions of coins and can definitively identify genuine errors versus post-mint damage or alterations. When you submit a coin to these services, they examine it under high magnification, verify its weight and dimensions, test its metal composition using non-destructive methods, compare it against their extensive databases of known errors and varieties, and if authentic, seal it in a tamper-evident holder with a detailed label describing exactly what the error is and assigning it a numerical grade based on condition, from poor 1 up to perfect mint state 70. This encapsulation and certification transforms a raw coin that might be difficult to sell into a collectible with instant credibility and marketability, because serious collectors simply won't pay 4- or 5-figure prices for raw coins when there's too much risk of counterfeits or misidentified errors. But show them a coin certified by PCGS or NGC as a genuine major error, and suddenly you're having a very different conversation about value. The auction history of major Roosevelt dime errors provides fascinating insight into market dynamics and collector demand. When significant wrong planchet errors or dramatic double strikes appear at major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stax Bowers, or Great Collections, the bidding can become absolutely fierce with collectors from around the world competing for pieces that may be literally one-of-a-kind or known in quantities of fewer than 5 examples. Prices realized often exceed pre-auction estimates by substantial margins because these are the kinds of coins that experienced collectors know they might never have another opportunity to acquire. One particularly famous example involves a Roosevelt dime struck on a quarter planchet that sold for over $40,000. Another involved a dramatic off-center strike with nearly 50% of the design missing that brought in $35,000. And these aren't isolated incidents but representative of a consistent market for quality error material where rarity, visual impact, and the specific nature of the error all combine to determine final value. And what's especially encouraging for potential finders is that this market has remained strong even during economic downturns because serious numismatists view rare error coins as tangible assets with intrinsic collector value that transcends the ups and downs of stock markets or cryptocurrency volatility. Now here's where the story gets even more interesting and why every single person watching this video needs to check their 2001 D Roosevelt dimes immediately. Because errors from recent years are still being discovered and authenticated all the time, there are absolutely coins from 2001 sitting in circulation right now, today in somebody's pocket or purse or coin jar, that have never been examined by anyone who knows what to look for. They've been spent dozens or hundreds of times, passing from hand to hand, completely unrecognized for what they truly are, waiting for that one person who's educated enough to spot the anomaly and smart enough to get it properly authenticated. The democratization of numismatic knowledge through online resources means you don't need to be a professional dealer or have decades of collecting experience to make a significant discovery. You just need to know what specific things to look for, have the discipline to actually examine your coins instead of spending them mindlessly, and have access to basic tools like a decent scale and magnification. The barrier to entry has never been lower, and the potential rewards have never been more accessible to regular, everyday people who simply decide to pay attention. Consider the psychological thrill of the hunt that drives so many people into error coin collecting. It's not just about potential monetary value, though that certainly doesn't hurt. It's about the genuine excitement of examining something that millions of other people have held and dismissed as ordinary, but you, armed with knowledge and attention to detail, recognize as extraordinary. It's about the satisfaction of spotting tiny details that escape 99.9% of the population, of understanding the minting process well enough to recognize when something has gone wrong in an interesting and valuable way. of being part of a community of enthusiasts who share your passion for these mechanical mistakes that create numismatic art. There's also something deeply appealing about the fact that modern era coins represent a very achievable collecting goal compared to traditional numismatic pursuits that require vast sums of money. You're not trying to acquire a 1794 flowing hair dollar that sells for millions or a complete set of gold double eagles that would cost more than most people's houses. You're searching through pocket change for recent coins that somehow escaped quality control. And when you find one, you've discovered something that even millionaire collectors would be excited to add to their collections. It's one of the few remaining areas where knowledge and dedication can triumph over unlimited financial resources. The technical aspects of how these errors occur provide endless fascination for people who love understanding mechanical processes and systems. Imagine the massive coining presses at the Denver Mint, each one capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute, fed by automated systems that are supposed to deliver perfectly prepared planchets of exactly the right size, weight, and composition to the striking chamber where upper and lower dies crash together with dozens of tons of pressure, imprinting the design into the soft metal in a fraction of a second before mechanical fingers eject the finished coin and the cycle repeats. It's an industrial ballet of precision engineering operating at speeds that human workers can barely perceive. And yet, despite all the sophistication, errors happen. Maybe a planchet intended for quarters somehow gets mixed into the dime feeding mechanism during a changeover between production runs. Maybe a struck coin doesn't properly eject and receives a second strike before it finally clears the press. Maybe a collar die that's supposed to contain the metal during striking breaks or misaligns, allowing a broad strike to occur. Maybe someone loads the wrong batch of planchets into a hopper and several dozen or several hundred coins get struck on completely wrong material before anyone notices. Each scenario represents a confluence of unlikely events that somehow overcomes multiple safeguards, creating something that simultaneously represents a failure of quality control and a triumph for collectors who treasure the imperfect and unusual. The investment potential of high-grade modern era coins deserves serious consideration because unlike many alternative investments that generate no income and require significant storage costs, era coins are highly portable, easy to store safely, require no ongoing maintenance or fees beyond initial authentication costs, and have demonstrated consistent appreciation over time as the collector base has grown and competition for scarce material has intensified, while past performance obviously doesn't guarantee future results. The fundamental economics of supply and demand strongly favor rare errors. There's a finite and typically tiny population of any specific major error. There's a growing number of collectors worldwide with increasing purchasing power competing to acquire them, and unlike stocks that can be diluted by new share offerings or real estate that can be developed to increase supply, no new examples of 2001 D Roosevelt dime errors are being created. Every single example that will ever exist already exists, most of them probably already destroyed or lost, making surviving specimens increasingly precious over time. Now, I want to address something really important about ethics and integrity in this hobby because it's crucial that everyone understands the difference between legitimate errors that occur at the mint versus post-mint damage or deliberate alterations that some dishonest people try to pass off as genuine errors. Authentic mint errors happen during the production process before coins enter circulation. They're mechanical accidents that result from specific failures in equipment or processes, and they have distinctive characteristics that experts can identify, things like the presence of parallel marks called die scratches, specific types of metal flow that only occur under the enormous pressures of a coining press, edge characteristics that can only result from striking under specific conditions, and comparison to known examples of similar errors that help establish authenticity. By contrast, post-mint damage might include coins that were deliberately altered after leaving the mint, perhaps struck with improvised dies in someone's garage, or damaged in ways that superficially resemble errors but lack the diagnostic features that authenticate genuine mint production. And attempting to sell altered or damaged coins as genuine errors is not only unethical but in many cases actually illegal, which is exactly why third-party certification is so important. It protects both buyers and sellers by providing expert authentication that everyone can trust. For anyone watching this who now wants to start seriously searching for valuable 2001 D Roosevelt dimes and other modern errors, let me give you some practical advice that can dramatically increase your odds of success. First, develop relationships with local banks and ask if you can purchase rolls or even boxes of coins for face value, which you can search through and then return the ones that aren't errors. Some banks are more accommodating about this than others, but many are happy to order Coins for regular customers, especially if you're courteous and don't create extra work for them. Second, always check your change, every single time, without exception. Make it a habit to glance at dates and mint marks, feel for weight differences, look for obvious size or color anomalies, because that 5 seconds of attention could literally find you a 5-figure coin. Third, attend local coin shows and build relationships with dealers who can teach you what to look for and might even buy your finds on the spot if you discover something significant. The knowledge you'll gain from conversations with experienced collectors is absolutely invaluable and will save you from common beginner mistakes. Fourth, invest in basic equipment including a decent electronic scale accurate to at least 2 decimal places, a quality jeweler's loupe or USB microscope, a good coin reference guide or subscription to online authentication resources, and supplies for safe storage of potential finds. We're talking about maybe $100 in initial investment that could help you identify a coin worth hundreds or thousands of times that amount. Fifth, educate yourself continuously through books, websites, YouTube channels like this one, forums, and any other resources you can access, because the more you know about minting processes, error types, and authentication techniques, the better equipped you'll be to spot that one special coin among thousands of ordinary ones. The beautiful thing about Roosevelt dime-era collecting is that it's genuinely accessible to anyone regardless of age, location, or financial resources. A teenager with access to their allowance can search bank rolls just as effectively as a retired millionaire. A person in a small rural town has the same odds of finding valuable errors as someone in a major city. The democratizing power of knowledge means that anyone willing to learn and pay attention has a legitimate shot at making a significant discovery. And here's the final thought I want to leave you with that should motivate you to take immediate action. Right now, today, at this very moment, there are 2001 D Roosevelt dimes worth tens of thousands of dollars sitting in circulation, in piggy banks, in the coin return slots of vending machines, in jars of change on bedroom dressers, in the pockets of jackets hanging in closets, completely unrecognized by the people who possess them. And every day that passes, some of these coins get spent, re-enter circulation, get handled by another person who doesn't know what they are, maybe get thrown into a fountain or a charity donation jar, moving further away from discovery and authentication. Time is literally working against you because these coins won't wait forever to be found. So I'm challenging you right now, before you finish watching this video, before you scroll to the next piece of content, before you close this app and forget everything you've learned, go find your 2001 D Roosevelt dimes, examine them carefully, check their weight if you have a scale, look for size differences, color anomalies, off-center strikes, anything unusual that doesn't match normal coins. And if you find something that makes you think twice, get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC, because the coin you're holding could genuinely be your ticket to thousands of dollars. And the only thing standing between you and that money is the decision to actually look. The 2001 D Roosevelt dime represents everything that's exciting about modern numismatics. It's recent enough that enormous quantities were produced and still exist in searchable form. It's old enough that significant errors have had time to be discovered and valued by the market. It's a denomination that everyone encounters regularly in everyday commerce, and it's proven beyond any doubt that major errors from this year and mint can bring prices that would change most people's financial situation overnight. So get out there, start searching, pay attention to your pocket change, and remember that the next great numismatic discovery might not be made by some professional dealer with unlimited resources, but by someone exactly like you who simply took the time to learn what to look for and had the discipline to actually examine the coins passing through their hands instead of dismissing them as ordinary money. Because in the world of error coins, fortune truly does favor not just the brave but the educated, the observant, and the persistent. And now that you understand exactly what makes a 2001 D Roosevelt dime potentially worth $53,000, you're equipped with knowledge that 99% of the population doesn't have, and what you do with that knowledge is entirely up to you.